Hi, this is Steve from Office365Mon.com, and in this video we're going to look at connecting the Webhook feature of Office 365 Mon and Azure Service Mon with the workflow in Microsoft Flow. So the reason we're putting this video together is we have a lot of customers that ask us to do things like send notifications to different people depending on what type of resource is having an issue. So for example, if Exchange Online is having an issue, they want an email to go to a different group of folks. And if SharePoint Online, as an example, is having an issue, so that's just one possible scenario. But there are obviously all sorts of different things that you can build once you see how to connect the webhook feature of our service with the Flow service at Microsoft. So to begin with, we'll go to the flow.microsoft.com site. This is what you see right now. We'll go ahead and we'll click on My Flows. And when this comes up, we'll see a workflow that we've already created. We're going to go ahead and create a new one though from scratch. And the first thing we're going to do is we want to use a trigger that's based on an HTTP request because that's what our webhook is. So we'll go ahead and we'll say search, and it will come up with a bunch of different types of connectors that they have. We'll see that's right there. In this case, in case you don't see it there, we'll just type in HTTP request, and we'll see that there's a trigger right there, a request when an HTTP request is received. So we'll go ahead and we'll select that. And it's telling us that the URL will be generated after save. So what that means is we're going to create our whole workflow. And then once we save it, then it will create the URL. And that's the URL that we can post stuff to trigger this workflow. So we'll take the URL that it generates here and we'll plug that into the webhook address in Office 365 Mon. So to begin with, let's actually give this workflow a name. We'll call this demo webhook with Office uh, with Office 365 Mon. And then it's going to ask us for the schema of the JSON data that's going to be coming over for this webhook. So we'll have that posted on our website when you go into where you configure the notifications for your Office 365 Mon and Azure Service Mon subscriptions. We'll have a link there that includes the schema. For now, we have it in this text file, so we'll just say copy, and then we'll go in here and we'll paste it in here. And so now we have the schema of all the fields that we're going to be included with our webhook data. So now we want to go ahead and add a condition. In the scenario here for this video, we're saying, depending on the type of resource that's having an issue, we're going to route a notification to a different group of people. So we'll say add a condition, and then up here in the condition box, we can, if we click and choose a value, we can actually choose from the different fields that are in the JSON that's going to be sent over. And so the webhook notification type is going to tell us what's actually occurring. Is it an outage? Is it, something different? So once we do that, and we get the dialog here to disappear, which unfortunately with Flow can sometimes be a little tricky to do. There we go. Now we can say, okay, so webhook notification, if you look on our SDK, you'll see that a webhook notification of 1 indicates that it's an outage of some type. It could be an outage is starting or an outage is ending. But in this case, it says webhook notification is equal to 1. That's what we want. So now that we know, if we come down here to the if yes, that means our webhook notification type is 1. So the next thing we want to do, now that we know it's an outage type of notification, because there's lots of different types of notifications we send out, then we want to go ahead and we want to look at the type of resource that's triggered this notification. It could be Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, Skype, OneDrive, etc. So we'll go ahead and we'll click on this More link here and we'll say add another condition. And for this one, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the resource type, because the resource type is going to tell us, hey, is this a SharePoint outage issue? Is it an Exchange outage or what? We'll say is equal to, and then we'll try and click away over here to get that guy to disappear again. And so for resource type, again, we have all the resource types documented in our subscription management SDK. And if you look in there, you'll see a resource type of 0 means that it's for SharePoint Online. A resource type of 1 means it's Exchange Online. But we'll start here And so now we know, if the webhook notification type is 1, which means some kind of outage, and the resource type is 0, that means it's a SharePoint thing. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add an action. And the type of action we're going to add in this case is we're going to go ahead and we're going to send an email. So we'll click on send an email, and then it will tell us the email addresses that we want it sent to. So for example, if we had a different email address set up just for SharePoint Online, we would plug that in here. In this case, we're just going to send it to our support at Office365Mon mailbox. We'll use that one. And we'll say it's a SharePoint outage. In this case, but again, as we're going through this, you can see we can pull in data from the JSON that's sent over. So what we're going to do in this case is we're going to send in include the name of the Office 365 Mon subscription. So we know it's a SharePoint outage, so we can say SharePoint outage for, and the subscription name we actually keep in the company name. That's also the subscription name at Office 365 Mon and Azure Mon. So when it comes in, it'll say SharePoint outage for, whatever the subscription name is. And then here in the body, we can go ahead and we can give more details again. So we can say we received an outage notification type of, and the reason why we want to plug in the outage notification type is because we send the notification type so you know if an outage is starting or if it's ending. So we'll go down here and we'll look for outage notification type, which is right there. So we'll say an outage notification type of whatever that is for the resource. And actually, we can make this a little more friendly and just say for the site. And we'll go down here to resource. So the resource is going to be the URL to the SharePoint site in this case. The other thing about these notifications is that we trigger them both for the probes that we issue from our cloud-based services, as well as when an outage occurs that's tracked by our distributed probe agent. So you can take our distributed probe agent and install it in as many different locations as you want. And there will be times that you'll see outages occurring in, maybe in one region of your organization, but not others. So when an outage is triggered by our distributed probe agent, then we go ahead and we include that information as well. So we're going to go ahead and include that in the body of our email that's being sent out, so they know whether or not it's occurring in a specific location or it's just from the cloud-based probe. So we can tell them that the distributed probe host name is, and then we'll look up here and we'll find our distributed probe host name, and there we go. So now they have all the basic information about this particular outage. We can obviously customize this further. If you wanted it to come from a specific, mailbox that they can't reply to, you can plug that sort of thing in here, etc. But all of that is basically good to go. So now we have our basic configuration to go ahead and send out a notification. Now, the other thing that we can do as well in here is if we wanted to send it to other places. So if no, if the resource type is 0, if it's not that, then we can go ahead and we can add another condition in here. And we can say, okay, we'll add a condition, and we'll say, okay, does our resource type, does it equal, and again, we have to click out of here to get to get flow to make that disappear. So we'll say if the resource type is equal to 1, which is Exchange Online. And then we can do the same exact thing. We can go in here and we can say add an action. We can say send an email. And we can do all of that same thing that we just created over there and say, okay, now we're going to do it for Exchange Online, and we're going to send it to our Exchange Online group and do the same exact thing. Once you're done, you'll go ahead and say, click Create Flow. Let's actually go ahead and let's just create a quick one here. Say, send it for email. Go ahead and send it to me and say, there's an email outage. And check for email down. And again, as we showed a minute ago, you can plug in all of this other information. We say, okay, this all looks good. So we'll go ahead and we'll say create flow. Now, when we do that, we see up here that it's saving the workflow. The workflow is created. So now if I click over here, we'll see now I have that URL. And that's the URL that we're going to plug into the webhook notification address in Office 365Mon. So I would copy it here. And then what I can do is I can go over here into Office 365Mon. So it's office365mon.com. I go into here into configure Office 365Mon, and then I can go down here to the notification info, and here we have our webhook address. So I can just take what I got from there, I can paste it in, I can go ahead and I would click update to save that, and then I can click the test button, and we see it worked, that we got a 202 and it was accepted. So that's how we create our flow. Once you've done that, we'll go ahead and we'll say done. And we'll go back to our list of webhooks and we'll actually show you the one that we created earlier, which was this first one. So if we go ahead and click on this, then we can see our run history and we can see where these different workflows have fired off. So if we go ahead and we dig into here, we can see, okay, our first condition resulted in true. And if we look at this one, our second condition, which was, is this, a SharePoint outage, was that true? And it was. And so you can see the whole message that it sent out. It says new SharePoint outage for, and you remember I plugged in the company name as the name of the subscription. And so again, my subscription name is office365mon.com. And so that shows up here. And then we can actually see an outage notification of type 0, which was our outage notification type, occurred for this site, which is, the URL that we entered. That was the resource property. Distributed host name was nothing because in this case, the outage notification came from our cloud-based probe and not a distributed probe. So that's how you can tie those things together. It's really pretty quick, simple, and easy to get this up and going. Again, this is just one possible scenario if you wanted to use it to route messages to different people based on different types of outages. But again, you have all of the power of the workflow engine in Microsoft Flow. You have all of the data coming from Azure Service Mon and Office 365 Mon. You see all of the data that's included in there. So there's a lot of rich decision making and rich workflows that you can create based on those webhooks. So I hope you find that useful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at support@office365mo.com. Thanks a bunch.